afternoon, one and all, and a warm welcome. Directorate General of Taxpayer Services, DGTS CBIC Bengaluru Zonal Unit, has always been in the forefront in taking the important policy framework of the Government of India, Ministry of Finance, directly to the taxpayers' doorsteps. Today, also, we are cutting a webinar. The Directorate General of Taxpayer Services, Bengaluru Zonal Unit, in association with Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry, FICCI, Kerala State Council, All India Federation of Tax Practitioners, AFTP Southern Zone, Association of Tax Practitioners, ATP Kerala, Cochin Chamber of Commerce and Industry, CCC and I, Kerala, Karnataka State Chartered Accountant Association, KSCAA, Karnataka, invites you all to this webinar on the topic Registration and Maintenance of Records under GST and Overview. For the presentation of the program, we have with us a highly talented faculty from our department, and also to make the question and answer session more effective, we have senior and experienced officers of CGST Commissionerate. Before we start the program, I have some important announcement. Microphones of all the participants are muted to avoid in-between disturbances during webinar. At the end of the program, we have a question and answer session which will be attended by our expert panelists. So I request all the audience to upload their queries in the chat box, which is open now, and the same will be noted and passed on to the expert panelists. The questions should be confined only to today's topic. I repeat, the questions should be confined only to today's topic. Questions other than today's topic will not be entertained. Further, in case of any queries clarification, taxpayers are requested to contact our GST Seva Kendra officers in the number for Karnataka 080-2286-6812, 080-2286-4105. For Kerala 0484-2394-105. Now for the welcome address, we have with us Sri R. Manogar IRS, Additional Director General, DGTS, Bengaluru Zonal Unit. Now I request Sri R. Manogar sir to welcome the gathering. Sir, over to you, sir.
Yes, Abhinesh. Very good afternoon to one and all. Respected Principal Chief Commissioner of CGST, Bengaluru Zone, Sri Rupam Kapoor. Respected Chief Commissioner of CGST and Customs, Thiruvananthapuram Zone, Sri A. Gopalakrishnan, Chairman, Finance Committee, FICCI, Kerala State Council, Sri Chakra Ramana, Secretary, AFTP, Southern Zone, Ma'am Sibi V, State Women's Wing President, ATP Kerala, CA Sujata G, President, KSCAA, Karnataka, Sri Prakash Iyer, Managing Committee Member, CCCI, Kerala, dear taxpayers, my dear colleagues, and all the participants, I stand privileged and honored to extend a warm welcome to this webinar. I profoundly appreciate the unconditional support and cooperation extended by Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry, Kerala State Council, All India Federation of Tax Practitioners, Southern Zone, Association of Association of Tax Practitioners, Kerala, Cochin Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Kerala, Karnataka State Chartered Accountants Association, Karnataka, in materializing this webinar. As you all aware, the Directorate General of Taxpayer Services has been set up with a mandate to reach out to the taxpayers to create awareness about various provisions of GST and customs law and procedure, and also to clarify the doubts. The DGTS has a headquarters at New Delhi with 6 zonal units. The Bengaluru Zonal Unit of DGTS caters to the needs of the Kerala and Karnataka. It is a constant endeavor of DGTS to take the relevant and current topics to the doorstep of the taxpayers through such webinars. Several need-based webinars have been conducted in the past after taking inputs from various trade associations Today's webinar is also one such. The session will delve on the topic registration and maintenance of records under GST. This is an important and relevant topic, though a larger extent, the process of getting GST registration has been streamlined, simplified. Still, there are doubts in the minds of the taxpayers, especially among the MSME sector. To clarify the doubts and mitigate the practical difficulties faced by them, today's webinar will be of much use. In a short while, a detailed presentation on the topic will be made by none other than Shri R. Srivatsan, Assistant Director, NACE in Chennai. He's a fabulous trainer, has a rich and wide knowledge on the topic. I'm sure this session will be enriching and would clarify all your doubts. I request all the participants to make best use of this session. With these words, I once again welcome you all to this webinar. Thank you. Over to you, Abhinay sir.
Thank you, sir, for your warm welcome. Our Chief Commissioner Manoj Kumar sir and our Principal Chief Commissioner Rupam Kambu sir, they are attending some urgent meeting. They will join in due course. The role played by the trade and industry in the nation's growth has always been commendable. In today's program, as I have already mentioned, there are a number of dignitaries representing the trade bodies, and it is our privilege to hear from them. We have with us Sri A. Gopalakrishnan, Chairman, Finance Committee, FICCI, Kerala State Council. I request Sri Gopalakrishnan sir to address the gathering. Sir, over to you, sir.
Good afternoon, most respected Principal Chief Commissioner of CGST Bengaluru Zone, Sri Rupam Kumar ji, Rupam Kabur ji, respected Chief Commissioner of CGST and Customs, Tirunelvelim Sri Manoj Kumar Arora ji, other distinguished panelists and resource persons and the participants. Good afternoon to all of you. Let me at the outset convey our greetings from the Federal Committee Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Kerala region. We are indeed indebted to the DGTS for providing such an opportunity for interaction between the trade industry and the department on a very vital and critical topic like that of registration and maintenance of records under the GST Act. The two topics are very much relevant because the registration, though may appear to be simple, the category of the trade or industry under which the registration is being taken, that depends upon the various, the type of input tax credit, the liability for output tax, etc. is being determined. So naturally, we must be educated and enlightened about the applicable provisions, which I don't want to deal much into the details of that, which I'm sure the eminent speaker will take care. But the taking a registration, and even those who are having a registration must be very clear. The type of registration, the type of business, the type of exemption that you want to claim with regard to the registration formality. Suppose there is a provision which deals with a specific type of, let us say, computation of the input tax credits under a particular formula, whether it is better to go by that mathematical formula or better to go for a separate registration to claim the full exemption input tax credit after the normal applicable provision. These are all good matters to be considered. Equally or more important than registration, I will say the maintenance of the books of accounts. In fact, there are elaborate sections that have been provided under the Act. And quite often the taxpayers are having real confusion, anxiety, how long the records have to be maintained, what are the type of records to be maintained, what is the inventory record, what are the financial record, and how should be produced in electronic form. All these things are really having a lot of confusion. In fact, the Companies Act also has made it mandatory to audit trail, which makes it mandatory on the part of the taxpayers and the corporates to keep a trail of the changes that will be made in the books of accounts. So now we are going to have a scenario where even if we make a minor change in the tally backup, let us say in the for entry made on the January 2024 to correct a genuine mistake, it will be coming under the audit trail that will be subject to scrutiny by the department as well as by the corporate authorities. So such a scenario, the maintenance of the books of account. And one other thing that we find is that now 17 July, the Act has become applicable. Now we started getting notices from the department directing the taxpayer to produce books of account, record, registration document from 2017-18 to, I can say 22-23 or even 21-22. I could see there is a very elaborate notices combined into one. All the record pertaining to 5 years, 6 years have been asked by the audit officer, and all the documents had to be produced together. So as a person representing industry, I respectfully submit that when you are discussing the topic on the maintenance of the books of accounts, etc., I suggest that rather than calling for all the record from 2017, 18 to 22, 23, why don't we rather think in terms of picking up 1 year, any year of your choice, maybe 22, 23 or 21, 22 or 2021, and let us have a deep scrutiny on the entire record for that period. Thereafter, we may go, if you find something which is not correct, then we can go for the rest of the year, because even 1 year document itself is very voluminous, numbering into more than 1,000 pages, asking for the copies of the invoices, etc. And after producing that, also the audit officer may not get time to go through that either. So if unnecessarily it adds to the paperwork of the department or the taxpayer. And also 17, 18, we have a broken period up to April to June and July to March. That also gives added burden on the part of the taxpayer to comply with that. And we can also insist on asking for the soft copies so that we need not go for the printed copies for all these years. So I understand the audit officers are highly cooperative, encouraging, and they don't want to harass at all the taxpayers. Nevertheless, the cumbersome procedure involved in publishing these documents creates its own problem. And also, again, as part of the maintenance of the records, I can say we are receiving at least notices at least every second day. And the progress notice under section 74, 73, etc., pointing out several mistakes in the return file vis-a-vis the books of account maintained. I respectfully say that 17, 18, 18, 19, I can give 1 or 2 simple examples with that I will close. Suppose, for example, one particular year, let us say there was a credit note received from the supplier, let us say for about 10 crores of rupees, and the input tax credit note that comes to, let us say, about 2.8 crores of rupees. If the taxpayer by mistake showed that as part of the outward supply in the month of, let us say, 2017 October, instead of showing it as a reduction on the input tax credit, there's no revenue loss at all. But there, only because you have been shown by mistake by him as outward supply, he has been asked to explain the mismatch. With documentary evidence, he is producing the books of account, he is producing the credit notes, etc. Still, the department officers, because of their fear complex, they say, at my level, I am not in a position to consider this request, though it is a revenue neutral. So on the basis, he says example of 10-20 cases completed, so huge reminder 2.8 crore plus tax plus penalty comes, though it is actually a revenue neutral case. So such cases, some kind of a direction can be given so that this kind of and even though the department officials are very much able to appreciate and verify the genuineness, it is only a clerical mistake rather than showing us the reduction in the input tax credit, those offered as outward sales, they'll be taken. Again, we find that there was a case where there was a reverse tax, again, they have shown by mistake as along with the outward supply. That also has been said, no, you are not able to reconcile the two, we are not able to accept that. One particular case that the amount has been shown under 4A table, under 4A in the 3B is no 4B. That also again stated that no, you cannot show us a different table. So all these cases are having say holistically the books of account maintained by the taxpayer is subject to audit by the auditor. Auditor financial statements are available. Returns are reconciled. All the books of accounts are available. So other than going by that route, even though strong verified books of accounts have been made, then these kinds of evidence have been taken. So a kind of a soft approach by the department from the DGTS can also be given. I will give you at least 5-6 bullet points I have captured and gathered, which I will share it with you. So maybe on a common issue basis, some stand can be taken so that unnecessary financial burden on the taxpayer, unnecessary paperwork on the hands of the taxpayer can be substantially reduced. The productive time of the learned department officials, the sincere officials, as well as the honest taxpayers can be utilized for further compliances and further enhancing the quality of the compliance by the department. And once again, I congratulate, I thank profusely for the department for taking such kind of initiative where we the taxpayers and we the bodies representing the taxpayer can bring to the kind notice of the concerned official like you the genuine grievances issues. If you are able to address one issue, I'm sure 1 lakh taxpayers will be benefited. One particular issue being resolved. For example, if by mistake the credit note against the purchase has been shown as an outward sale, outward supply, rather a reduction in the ITC, that is also, I'm sure, not less than 1 lakh people are going to be benefited. And now we are asked to produce a CS certificate from the supplier. We are producing that also. Another very serious case is again, we are getting the 2A, GST 2A on the basis of the purchaser. But if the supplier has not uploaded his GST 9, or he has not paid the tax and it doesn't come under GST 2B, how can I am responsible for that? Again, the refund due to the assessee, by books of accounts are produced, accounts are correct. Those who are going to claim the refund against export, if they are going to claim the refund on the capital goods under the 2 option, I'm not able to under one option I can claim, second option I'm not getting it. So these are some of the genuine difficulties the taxpayer actually faces. So these I will again repeat, I will send you these issues if you can kindly gauge them so that a lot of litigation, lot of dispute, lot of mental uneasiness can be avoided. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Your suggestion well noted, sir. We have with us Sri Chakra Ramana, Secretary, AAFTP Southern Zone. I request Sri Chakra Ramana to address the gathering. Over to you, sir.
Good afternoon to you all. The topic itself is the need of the hour, and the registration process is authenticated in AP, that is successfully they are running it. And from our association, we are interacting with them and we are giving suggestions to issue the standard operating procedures to take care of the processing in a systematic manner, very systematic manner, and also to avoid the delay in registration process also we are suggesting, and how to issue the SOP and all the practical difficulties and all we have collected from the trade, and accordingly we have suggested the state authorities and they are going to implement that, sir. And at present, this one actually it has been shown interest by the 5 states, that is AP, Telangana, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu and Gujarat states. In principle, they have accepted to implement it, this Aadhaar authentication and registration process, and the maintenance of records under GST and all, almost all the people are thoroughly acquainted with that, and some sort of issues are there. Those practical difficulties also will overcome by way of attending to the this type of seminars, and the topic itself is very useful for the trade as well as tax professionals and department also. I hope that this will be the grand success. Thank you, sir. Thank you for giving this opportunity to me. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you, sir. We have with us Srimati Sibi, the State Women's Wing President, ATP Kerala. I request Srimati Sibi ma'am to address the gathering.
Thank you, sir. Am I audible?
Yeah, ma'am, you are audible.
Honorable Principal Chief Commissioner of CGST Bengaluru Zone, Shri Rubam Kapoor, IRS. Honorable Chief Commissioner of CGST and Customs Tirunelveli Zone, Shri Manoj Kumar Arora, IRS. Honorable Additional Director General, DGTS Bengaluru Zonal Unit, Shri R. Manohar, IRS. Guest speakers, topic speakers and expert panelists, and ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It is my honor and privilege to be here as a guest speaker for this important webinar by representing Association of Tax Practitioners Kerala. I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to DGTS of CBSE Bengaluru for organizing this insightful webinar on this important topic, registration and maintenance of records under GST. Here we have expert topic panelists for to detail this subject. GST compliance through proper registration and careful record maintenance is not just a legal obligation, but an essential factor of business. It ensures smoother operations, financial integrity, and contributes to a transparent and efficient tax system. Registration process is done through GST portal. It requires careful attention to detail. If we ensure the accuracy of information providing during registration, It can prevent future complication and compliance issues. As per GST law, every registered person must maintain detailed records of all our transactions at their principal place of business. This includes sales, purchases, stock, input tax credits, and output tax liabilities. The compliance of maintenance of records leads to their nature of businesses also. The proper recording of purchases and expenses is essential for claiming input tax credits. Any mismatch between the records and returns filed can lead to the denial of ITC. As a representative of tax practitioners, we assure you that we are always here to support businessmen and ensure their compliance with the tax laws. Our commitment is to provide expert guidance, facilitate smooth operations, and help businesses to navigate the complexities of tax system with confidence and accuracy. On behalf of Association of Tax Practitioners, I would like to extend our heartfelt gratitude for inviting us to participate in your informative webinars. These sessions are very helpful in enhancing our knowledge and understanding of crucial areas of GST compliance. I wish you all a productive and inspiring webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. We have with us CA Sujata, President, Karnataka State Chartered Accountant Association, Karnataka. I request CA Sujata ma'am to address the gathering.
Good afternoon, all members present here. On behalf of Karnataka State Chartered Accountant Association, I am the President Sujata, welcoming you all for this wonderful outreach program organized by DGTS CBIC Bengaluru Unit. This topic is very interesting and it's going to be very useful for all taxpayers because of the simple reason that many of you may think that registration has been happening through migration process since 6-7 years now. So what is so important or new that we have as professionals as well as taxpayers to learn? But if you look at the provisions of GST, it is just not simply like 20 lakhs is a turnover as per section 22 or 24 that mandates the registration. There are various nuances which a taxpayer has to take care. So when it comes to registration, they come to the professionals, whether there is a need for registration in the first place, because that is the first and foremost gateway which opens up the GST exposure to the government. So when it comes to that, we being the first point of contact as professionals, I must, as a professional body, I thank DGTS for giving us this opportunity for partnering with us in organizing this program. Thank you so much, sir. My heartfelt thanks on behalf of my organization to Principal Commissioner, Chief Commissioner, organizers, and all other directors and panelists for hosting this program. When it comes to registration, there are, even if you look at in the recent 53rd GST Council meeting, they are going to introduce the Aadhaar-based authentication, GST registration process. So government is always trying to, ease of doing business. Each step is taken towards ease of doing business. And this is one such initiative, which is going to get rolled out soon to all other states. So Bengaluru being the forefront in terms of technology, I think this is a wonderful initiative for picking this topic and spreading the awareness for all taxpayers. So this is with respect to the topic number 1. When I come to the topic number 2 for maintenance of records, government has done its wonderful work in terms of maintenance of records, because as far as GST is concerned, it's in simple terms, if I have to say, if you take care of your invoices, you don't have to worry about your books of accounts. People may ask, taxpayers may ask, ma'am, how is it possible? Yeah, that is true, because if you file your B2B and B2C in your GSTR1 correctly, then your GSTR2B is, your purchase register is taken care through a form called GSTR2B. So if you take care of your sales, updating of your records in GSTR1 correctly, then your records are taken care. Even that, if you are going to do through e-invoice, which is going to, slightly, the threshold limit has been consistently reduced over a period of time. The government is trying at its best to make the process simpler so that the taxpayers do not feel the burden of updating records or, escalating any grievances to the government. So with this note, I would like to conclude and thanks the organizers for giving us this opportunity, because it is a testament for our efforts, because ACA representations have been given to government right from registration, right from any complaints related issues or any legal provisions or any rules wherever the taxpayer feels the burden, or representing from professional side as well. So the government is patient enough. The officers are very accommodative in addressing our grievances, and immediately the actions have been taken in the recent past. With this note, I thank once again. I wish this program to be a grand success. So all the participants, please stay connected. This program, though it ends in 2 hours or 3 hours, as professionals and as the body, we are always here to address all your queries. Thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Now we come to the main part of the program, and we are honored and privileged to have with us Sri R. Srivatsan, IRS, Assistant Director, Nation, Chennai. He has a depth of knowledge in all the subjects of GST. He has been kind enough to accept our request and readily agree to do the presentation. I will request Sri R. Srivatsan ji to start his presentation. Sir, over to you, sir.
So, thank you very much, sir. I hope I am audible. One line of confirmation. I will proceed further, sir. Yes, sir.
You are audible, sir. You are audible.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to praise my sincere gratitude to the Principal Additional Director General, DGTS, for having reposed his confidence in me, inviting me and to give me an opportunity to make this presentation. Sir, I am very grateful to you for your support, sir. Your guidance has always been valuable to me. I also thank my Additional Director General, Nation, Chennai, for in fact helping me in making this presentation possible, as contentful as possible. With all his guidance, in fact, I was able to make this presentation possible in a very short period of time. So I will begin my presentation with this sharing this PowerPoint with you, so that it becomes sort of a visual attraction for everybody, so that we'll cover all the points that have been charted out and that are found to be quite important. So the topic given to me today is to speak to you about registration and maintenance of accounts under GST. Why registration? Registration, in fact, has been one of the very sensitive topics as far as GST is concerned. Generally, whenever there is a discussion that happens with reference to GST, the first question that is asked is whether registration has to be taken or not. And if so, what are the procedures that are expected to be done? And what are the documents that are required to be given, so that this process ends up seamlessly with allocation of a GSTIN number. Probably I have made a sincere attempt to list out the possible documents that are expected to be produced at the time of filing the application for request for registration, and also the continuous process that ends up in issuing a GSTIN number in the form of GST REG 06. So the presentation plan will be like this. I will try to explain to you about the concept of registration, why it is required, why this process of registration has assumed a lot of importance, what is the value of a registration certificate, and how responsible a taxpayer who has been assigned with the registration certificate should carry. And who are the persons who are liable for registration, who are not liable for registration, and who are exempted from registration. Very important aspect, because you should understand, first of all, whether you are required to take a registration or not, irrespective of the threshold limits that are prescribed under Section 22, as was briefed during the inaugural speech. We will also cover the points regarding the physical verification, the documents that an officer who comes for physical verification requires, and that how he verifies that, and how helpful you can be to him and how helpful he can be to you. So this aspect also we will try to clarify. I will also explain the process of GST REG 6, which is the verification report that will be submitted by the officer who undertakes this verification, physical verification of the premises. Once this process is known, probably the taxpayers also will know what can be expected from the officer who comes for physical verification, and so that he or she can be ready with the documents that are required. I'll also touch upon the subject of fake registrations, which in fact has created a lot of chaos with reference to ineligible availment of input tax credit based on fake documents. What is the way forward? There was also a comment about the biometric based Aadhaar authentication that is expected to be done on pan-India basis in a phased manner, as was announced during the press conference by the Honorable Finance Minister. And finally, I will also talk to you about the various types of documents that are expected to be maintained legislatively. What are the legislative obligations as far as maintenance of records are concerned? What records should be maintained? What records the law expects you to maintain? What records that you are already maintaining will have the legislative recognition? So all these aspects we will try to cover. And finally, we will have a question and answer session in which my counterparts from DGTS will in fact moderate. And to support me in this endeavor, I have Mr. Kishore, the superintendent from CPC Bangalore, who is in charge of approving the registration certificate that comes to the dashboard of the Bengaluru zone. So this is how the presentation plan will be. And probably the first question that crops up to your mind is that I have invested my time, what will I know? These are the areas probably you will be enlightened today. So first and foremost question is, why registration? What is the requirement of taking registration? Registration primarily is the identification of the taxpayer as far as GST is concerned. The GST will identify a taxpayer only based on his GSTIN number, that is GST identification number. And therefore, it is the first point of identification, both on transaction basis as well as on identification basis. So GSTN essentially is very important for every taxable person. Second, it is a fundamental requirement. Without GSTIN, you cannot undertake business in case you have crossed the threshold limits. Therefore, it is a fundamental requirement as seen by the legislation. There are two sections which in fact speaks about who has to take a registration. Section 22, which speaks about threshold limits upon crossing which a person will have to take a registration. Second is section 24, which speaks about compulsory registration, notwithstanding the provisions of section 22, which speaks about the thresholds. Once the registration is taken, the taxpayer is enabled for collection of taxes. You know that there are two persons involved as far as this taxation workflow is concerned. One is the person who is liable to pay the tax. The other one is who bears the incidence of this tax. So a person who is liable to pay the tax, irrespective of the fact whether he collects it from his customers or not, he has to discharge that tax liability, and therefore registration is absolutely mandatory. And in fact, the supplier who makes a taxable supply acts as a custodian of government revenue, collects it from the from his prospective clients, and then deposits it to the government. So in order to undertake this legislative responsibility, he has to take a registration. Fourth is the benefits that are extended by the legislation are all available to the taxpayer only if he takes a registration. Like the best example for that is seamless availment of input tax credit that a person can take. Unless you have a registration certificate and become a taxable person, you cannot avail the advantages that are bestowed by the legislation of GST. So these are the four corners which mandates a person to take a registration, and they are absolutely essential. So let us now see who is the person who is liable to register himself. As I said, there are two provisions which speaks about a person who has to take a registration. Section 22, which talks about a person to take a registration upon crossing certain threshold limits. You know that goods and service taxes are divided into two silos. One is with reference to supply of goods. The other one is with reference to supply of services. And of course, a person can undertake supply of goods and services together also. So the threshold limits that has been laid as far as a normal taxpayer is concerned is, if a person deals only with supply of goods. He doesn't deal with supply of services. The threshold limit is that he has to take a registration upon crossing an annual aggregate turnover of 40 lakh rupees. So we have very specifically used the word annual aggregate turnover instead of using the normal jargon of turnover, precisely because annual aggregate turnover in fact has been defined as part of the GST Act. Annual aggregate turnover includes taxable supplies as well as exempted supplies, and exempted supplies includes non-taxable supplies and activities which are neither considered as supply of goods or supply of services, and also supplies relating to no GST and non-GST supplies, which means the entire gambit of transactions that happens with reference to a legal entity under single PAN across the country. PAN here means the permanent account number issued by the income tax department. So if they have crossed with reference to that PAN number across the country, and if they cross this 40 lakh rupees, and if they are a person who is dealing only with goods, then he has to take a registration. Till such time of crossing this 40 lakh rupees of threshold, they need not take registration. Second, this threshold limit as far as services are concerned is 20 lakh rupees. Upon crossing this threshold of 20 lakh rupees, they will have to take a registration. Third is a person who undertakes both supply of goods as well as supply of services. In that situation, the threshold limit has been kept as 20 lakh rupees. So this is essentially for almost all the business entities across the country, except for those whose principal place of business in special category of states. Special category of states are in fact defined or recognized by the Constitution. To give an example, the 7 northeastern states, Jammu and Kashmir, Uttaranchal, Uttarakhand, these are all considered as special category of states by the Constitution. And any business person who has got his supplies made from that particular state, then the threshold limit are half of the limit that are prescribed for others across the country. So this limit, one will have to understand 3 very important points. One is, if it is with reference to goods, it is 40 lakhs. If it is with reference to services, it is 20 lakhs. If it is a combination of goods and services in that turnover, then also it becomes 20 lakhs. And this turnover is annual aggregate turnover, which will have to be taken. And this annual aggregate turnover is an aggregate of all the transactions that happens across the country under single PAN, which not only includes taxable supplies, but also exempted supplies. And exempted supplies includes non-taxable and non-GST supplies. So this is how we will have to sum up as far as your liability to take registration under Section 22 is concerned, which is based on the threshold limits. The second type of registration is compulsory registration, where this mechanism of threshold limits will not work. Person who undertakes these types of transactions will have to take a registration right from ₹1. They are not eligible for this threshold limit of 40 lakhs, 20 lakhs, or 10 lakhs. So a person who is making interstate supply of goods and services will have to take compulsorily right from ₹1. Casual taxable person, a person who is required to pay tax under the reverse charge mechanism as mandated under Section 9(3) of the CGST Act, or 9(4) and 9(5) as well. So if the liability is created on reverse charge mechanism, then he will have to compulsorily take a registration. Input service distributors also will have to take a registration, and they will have to distribute the credit. The person who is required to deduct tax at source or collect tax at source under Section 51 and 52 of the CGST Act. Any person who acts as an agent for his principal, e-commerce operator as recognized by their business model, and online information data access or retrieval service, a person who is providing this service from a place outside India to a person who is not registered in India will have to take a registration. In case such supply happens to a person in India who is registered, the liability is cast on reverse charge mechanism. So it is only when a person who has been appointed as an authorized person to collect and discharge the GST liabilities for OIDAR supplies, he will have to take compulsory registration. There are different types of registration. In fact, that was commented by during the course of the inaugural speech also. There are various types of registration also other than the normal registration. Generally, a person gets himself registered upon crossing this threshold limit or under Section 24 whenever there is a requirement for him to discharge tax liability, primary responsibility. Second is that when he intends to avail the benefits that are extended by the legislation like input tax credit. Whereas in these types of registrations, in fact, if we could see here, the input service distributor, that is ISD, as well as the person liable for deduction of TDS and TCS will have no liability to pay tax per se. Input service distributor takes a registration only for distribution of credit with reference to common services received at the head office, which are attributable to the branch offices also. So it gives him an opportunity, a legislative competence to distribute the credit that is available in the books of accounts at the head office to his branch office where taxable supplies in fact are made. Then a person who is liable for TDS, TCS, again, no, he does not have any mandate or liability to pay tax. He simply deducts tax or collects tax from his clients at the time of making payment for the bill. And such amount collected or deducted is immediately upon filing the return passed on to his client so that that can be used for discharging the tax liability of his clients. So these two people generally don't have any tax liability for discharge. The third type of registration is by casual taxable person or non-resident taxable person. Though they have to use the same registration application, GST REG 01, the subtle difference between these type of registration and the normal registration is that the casual taxable person or a non-resident taxable person will have to pay tax in advance. He has to first of all estimate his tax liability for a period of 90 days because this casual taxable person and non-resident taxable person's registration is valid only for a period of 90 days that is extendable by the commissioner for another period of 90 days. So they have to estimate their tax liability for this period and pay it in advance. They have to take a registration at least 5 days prior to commencement of taxable supply. So this is one very important difference between a normal taxable person and a casual taxable person. Advance tax is the thumb rule as far as this type of registration is concerned. And the second difference is that the registration certificate issued to the CTP or NRTP is temporary in nature, whereas all the other registration certificate are permanent unless they are surrendered or cancelled. So this is another major difference between these two types of registrations. And OIDAR service, which is something where the liability is cast on a third party, neither the supplier from a place outside India nor the recipient unregistered person, but it is cast on a person who has been appointed responsible for collection and discharging the tax liability. So OIDAR is generally in relation to online database access or retrieval services, and all these intangible transactions that happens over the cloud probably can be categorized under this heading. And another very important aspect with reference to OIDAR is that the entire country's jurisdiction is with Bengaluru West Commissionerate. So any person who categorizes himself as a supplier under OIDAR will have to take a registration with Bengaluru West Commissionerate. So that is another very important aspect as far as OIDAR is concerned. So nobody across the country has got jurisdiction over OIDAR except Bengaluru West Commissionerate. So these are different types of registrations other than normal registrants. So this probably gives you a pen picture of how registration concept has been conceptualized, and who are the various types of registration and what are the various categories of people who come in for registration. So the next question that crops up into our mind is to know who is not liable for registration. Section 23 of the CGST Act mandates two people for that. One is that a person who is exclusively engaged in the business of supply that are not liable for tax, or that is wholly exempted from tax, he need not take registration. Obviously, because of the fact that he does not have a tax payment liability, there is no requirement for him to take a registration, even if he has crossed his annual aggregate turnover of more than 20 lakhs, because his taxable supply are nil and there is no tax liability as far as he is concerned. So he need not take a registration. That is infectious. Second person is an agriculturist. So agriculturist to the extent of supply of produce out of cultivation of the land, out of harvest. So if there is any supply by an agriculturist are also not expected to take a registration. If the supply is made by an agriculturist becomes a taxable supply, it is levied under reverse charge mechanism, and therefore there will not be any liability for an agriculturist to take a registration. So these two categories of business entities have been specified as those who are not required or not liable to take a registration in terms of section 23. We also have certain list of people who are exempted from taking registration. The first and foremost is that when a business entities, all outward supplies are liable for tax under reverse charge mechanism, they need not take a registration in spite of the fact that their annual aggregate turnover has crossed 20 lakh limit, or for that matter 40 lakh limit aggregate turnover. To give you an example, the supply of service with reference to transportation of goods by road, a GTA, when he opts for reverse charge mechanism, where all his tax liabilities are discharged by specified recipients, in spite of the fact that his turnover has exceeded the threshold limits, he is not required to take a registration because he is exempted. All his outward supplies are liable for tax only under reverse charge mechanism. Second is a casual taxable person who undertakes supply of specified handicrafts, which is listed in the notification. He also need not take registration. Third is a job worker making interstate supplies, provided that the principal owner of the raw material or the principal supplier of the raw material is registered, and he undertakes the responsibility of discharging taxes that are associated with the supply. The fourth person is a person who undertakes interstate supply of services up to an aggregate turnover of 20 lakh rupees. If you can recollect, in the previous slide, I spoke to you that under section 24, a person who undertakes interstate supply of goods or services will have to take mandatory registration, notwithstanding the threshold limit, whereas an exemption has been given for all interstate supply of services whose aggregate turnover is up to 20 lakh rupees. So up to 20 lakh rupees, even if he undertakes interstate supply and supply of services, this is not applicable for goods. It is only restricted for supply of services. So if he undertakes this supply, notwithstanding section 24, he need not take a registration, he is exempted. Then supply of services through aggregators under section 9(5), probably if you can recollect that these services are something now which we daily avail. Ola, Uber, Urban Clap, or Oyo Homes, Make My Trip, etc., where neither the supplier of service nor the recipient of service are liable to pay the tax, but an aggregator has been made responsible or liable for payment of this tax, and therefore any person who undertakes supply through these aggregators was specified under section 9(5) also need not take a registration. Then supply of goods where the aggregate turnover is less than 40 lakhs, obviously they need not take. I have explained that in the previous slide itself. So they also need not take. Right, now coming to the main point, how do I take a registration? First and foremost is that if you want to take a registration, see, registration also again can be either based on the threshold limit or based on the compulsory requirement under section 24, or no, a person can take a registration on voluntary basis also and then try to avail the benefits that are extended by the legislation. So in any of the categories, if a person is taking registration, then he has to first of all identify what is the nature of transaction that he is likely to do. And the first point of action is that he has to fill up a form called Form GST REG 01. Form GST REG 01 is the application for seeking GST registration. So once this application is filed, I'll just try to explain to you the work process. Probably in the question and answer session, my good friend Mr. Kishore will be in a position to explain this in a better manner. But still, once this application is filed in the front end portal, it comes to the CPC, and CPC officer allocates this responsibility to one of the officers in the CPC, and In case it requires a physical verification, it is marked to an officer to undertake physical verification, who conducts physical verification and gives his report in form REG 30. And based on the report in form REG 30, the final decision whether to allow registration or not will be decided. So at the time of filing this form GST REG 01, what are the documents that are absolutely essential? Without these documents, the application will not be considered as complete. First of all, you know that this GST is a PAN-based registration number. It is a 15-digit state-specific PAN-based registration number, which means unless a business entity holds a PAN card, they will not be able to take a GSTN number. So PAN and GSTNs are always mutually interlinked, and therefore PAN card of the business entity or PAN card of the owner in case of proprietary concern is the first and foremost requirement. Second is that now we have now shifted to Aadhaar based authentication. So it can either be OTP based Aadhaar authentication or biometric based Aadhaar authentication. But Aadhaar authentication is mandatory. So in a sense that if Aadhaar authentication is done at the time of filing GST REG 01, physical verification will not be entertained. Or if Aadhaar authentication is not done at the time of filing this GST REG 1, then physical verification will become mandatory. Third is the photograph of the owner. So he can file this maximum size of 10 KB. So that is to identify the person who has applied for registration. And then details of a business. All these aspects are self-guided through this form GST REG 01. So if you go into the portal, log in into the portal and try to start filling up the various boxes in the form that is available, because now everything has to be done only online. So when you start filling this, the system itself will guide you what are the information that is required, what are the information that requires to be uploaded, and in case if it requires to be uploaded, what is the maximum size of the document that can be uploaded. So all these aspects will be guided by the system itself. There is no requirement for you to feel alien as far as filling these forms are concerned. So the details of your business, the HSN number that you are using, or the jurisdiction where you are located with reference to the principal place of business. So all these aspects will have to be declared in as part of form REG 01. Then a document which shows the address proof that the principal place of business or the additional place of business from where the supplies, taxable supplies, are likely to be affected. So whether you are in legal possession of that particular premises or not is required to be verified, and therefore no address proof is always made mandatory. So unless proper address proof is given, that this could be a point of clash where the officer may not allow you to take a registration. So address proof is absolutely very, very important. The address proof validates the point that you are in legal possession of that particular place to undertake a business transaction. So these are the 5 very, very important documents. I will in fact reiterate these points once again after guiding you through this through the other very important points. So these are the very 5 critical points that are required once a registration application is made in GST form REG 01. What are the documents? I said that apart from these 5 documents, there are certain other documents also that are required to be submitted in the portal. Let me reiterate one more fact here, that again and again, there is no requirement for any of the applicants to meet the officers of the department. You can treat it that it is almost faceless. There is absolutely no requirement to meet the officer. It has to be done only through the portal. And once it is submitted in the portal, you will get acknowledgement called ARN number, application reference number, and that will be the key identification point for your application GST REG 01. So that ARN number will help you in identifying the status of your application, which can be checked in the portal at your convenience. So the documents that are required for registration primarily is if it is a sole proprietary concern or an individual concern, obviously it will be the PAN card of the owner. Second is very importantly the Aadhaar card. Now Aadhaar based authentication has become mandatory. Aadhaar of the owner is very important. Photograph, then bank details also is required. You may be wondering that no sir, I may not be pushed to a situation where there could be a refund scenario. But and therefore know what is the purpose of declaring my bank account. But in terms of Rule 10A of the CGST rules, declaration of at least one bank account is absolutely mandatory. Let me tell you that the form GST REG 01 is capable of accepting 23 bank accounts, but it is not mandatory. If you at least declare one bank account, that will suffice. That will take care of the completion formalities. Then address proof of the principal place of business, which I have elaborated. So from now on, I will just try to explain what is the difference between the other types of applicants. For HUF, obviously the PAN card of the HUF is required and Aadhaar card of the HUF is required, and all other requirements are common, just as we saw the information that has to be provided here. So these are common for almost everybody, like this photograph, this bank account, the address proof, etc., are all quite common for everybody, right? Only this PAN card and probably the Aadhaar card, there is a difference as to whose information will have to be given. We'll move on to the next type of partnership firm. Again, in case of a partnership firm, we require the PAN card of all the partners is required, apart from the PAN card of the business entity. Business entity will have a PAN card as a business entity, so that is the PAN number based on which the GST number will be issued. So the PAN card of all partners are also required. Then copy of the partnership deed is also absolutely essential to establish that it is a partnership firm. Then photograph of all the partners will have to be uploaded, and the size of the photograph should not exceed 100 KB. There are a lot of open source software which helps you on the net to compress your file size and then make it less than 100 KB. So that in fact is not a big issue nowadays. So even if the resolution of the photographs is very high that you possess, it can be compressed to less than 100 KBs by any of the open source softwares. That should not be a problem. Then address proof of the owners, probably a passport or a driving license or voter ID or the Aadhaar card, probably any of these can actually help. Then Aadhaar card of the authorized signatory, that is absolutely essential because that is where the Aadhaar authentication is done. So the partnership firm should nominate one person as an authorized representative, the primary authorized representative of the company, and his Aadhaar will be linked with this registration. And of course, no proof of appointment as as authorized signatory is very important. Then board's resolution is also very important here. Then bank account and address proof as usual. So there's not much of a change from other types of registrants. What about a public limited company or a private limited company, Indian or foreign? So very important, apart from other documents, the certificate of incorporation given by the Ministry of Corporate Affairs is very important, so that I understand and recognize that it is a public limited company or a private limited company. Then like any other thing, we require all these documents, just like a partnership company. We need the PAN card and the Aadhaar card of the authorized signatories, and then the PAN card and address proof of the directors, photograph of all the directors, board resolution appointing an authorized signatory. So all these documents are essential. So if you properly file and upload these documents as required as part of the GST REG 1 and authenticate the Aadhaar number of the authorized signatory, even without physical verification, the GSTN number can in fact be given in no time. It will not get delayed, because we realize that if somebody is coming for taking a registration, we firmly and honestly believe that the intent of taking registration is to discharge tax liability. So if somebody is coming forward to pay tax, there is no rhyme or reason for us to deny that. But we do have faced a lot of difficulties in fake registrations, which has led to fake ITC and huge loss for the revenue with guilty mind. And therefore, we have no option but to put up all these restrictions at the time of making the application for registration. But all these are those documents which you are already in possession of. There's nothing to reinvent any document here. So all these documents are in pre-possession before even starting to file the GST REG 01 application form. So once the application form is filled, so if it is a new registration, the registration form itself will ask for the bank account. As I said, in terms of Rule 10A, for every GSTN number, there has to be a bank account that should be linked. So if you are already an existing GSTN number and you have not linked your bank account, probably this is the time to do that. And after issuance of the GSTN number in GST REG 6, you try to link it within 45 days from the date of allotting this GSTN number, or it has to be done before filing of the GSTR 3B of the next tax period, whichever is earlier. So these two conditions are very important. If you are applying afresh, new registration means the system will itself get the bank account number recorded as part of GST REG 01. If it is already an existing registration number, then no, it has to be done within 45 days. So that is what the rule actually says. And it doesn't mean like, if you have not linked your bank account with the registration number, you cannot do business, collect tax, or cannot avail ITC. But in a situation where any benefit is to be extended to you in the form of disbursement of refund, at that particular point of time, probably non-linking of bank account might pose a great difficulty in getting the amount disbursed to your account. Therefore, it is quite sane and sensible to link a bank account with the registration number GSTIN at the time of taking registration, or at least within 45 days of taking the registration. And who are not required to declare their their bank account number, those who are taking registration as TDS or TCS applicants, or when the department suo moto issues a registration certificate as part of their investigation or scrutiny. The department has got authority to suo moto take a registration, allot him a temporary GSTN number, upon which he will have to apply for GST new GSTN number within 90 days. So when suo moto GSTN number is allotted, that time bank accounting is not possible. Whereas when you are regularizing the suo moto registration, temporary registration, by applying GST REG 01 at that particular point of time, this information with reference to the bank account will have to be given as part of the GST REG 01. So this is about linking of bank accounts. Initially, at the time of rolling out of GST, this was not mandatory, but by virtue of notification 31 of 2019, with effect from 28/6/2019, this has become mandatory, and therefore linking of bank account is absolutely essential. Right. Next is the mechanism which has been put to plug fake registrations, where the Aadhaar authentication has been made mandatory. So section 25 of the CGST Act has been amended in 2019, where Aadhaar authentication to furnish the proof of possession of Aadhaar has been made absolutely mandatory for all the registrants. The Aadhaar number declared by the applicant in the form GST REG 01 will be verified with Central Identities Data Repository CIDR, that is the custodian of the Aadhaar number on behalf of UDAI. So there is an interportal connectivity to verify the Aadhaar number based on OTP or biometric Aadhaar authentication, about which I will explain a little later. Just like the PAN number that is being verified through interportal connectivity with the database of the Income Tax Department, Aadhaar also is verified with the Central Identities Data Repository, and upon verification only, further step of issuing a GST number is actually processed. So in case of Hindu undivided family, the Aadhaar number of the Karta will have to be done. In case of a public limited company or a private limited company, the managing director or a whole-time director's Aadhaar can be done, or partners can be done, or members of the board of trustees can be done, or by a resolution, an authorized signatory, primary authorized signatory can be nominated, and he will be representing through his Aadhaar credentials. The company will be validated through his Aadhaar credentials. So this is a very important aspect as far as private limited, public limited company or partnership concerns are considered. So failure to submit Aadhaar will always lead to physical verification. So physical verification, let me tell you, physical verification is generally not selected, It is not mandatory. it is a discretion, purely discretion of the officer, whether to allot physical verification or not. But the officer has been given with the risk parameters and red flags to identify which requires a physical verification or not. But if there is a failure to submit Aadhaar authentication, physical verification becomes mandatory. Once physical verification is ordered, the proper officer will have to complete his physical verification within 15 days and then submit a report in GST REG 30 within another 15 days, which means generally if everything is seamless and the Aadhaar is also authenticated, generally the GSTN number is expected to be issued within 7 days of application. But if there is a failure of Aadhaar authentication, probably it may take 15 days here and then another 15 days here. Probably you will end up taking 1 month to get a GSTN number. So it's always better to have the list of documents that are to be filed along with GST REG 1 and upload them properly, legibly, so that the officer has got no doubt or the officer is satisfied that this is a genuine application and therefore he approves this issuance of GSTN number in GST REG 06. So just to demonstrate, it is not that all speaking only, just to demonstrate you, when you are trying to apply this GST REG 01, this is the dashboard that you will be seeing. All these information will have to be submitted one by one. See, you can see here that the business details, promoters details, author signatory, who is the authorized representative whose Aadhaar number requires to be authenticated, what is the principal place of business, then additional place of business. If nothing is there, you need not fill this at all. Whether he is dealing with goods or services, or whether it is state specific information or it is a common information. So all these things will have to be done. The system itself will undertake slowly what is the extent of the profile completion. And once the Aadhaar authentication is also done, so it makes it as 100% and then allows you to file, do a verification. Verification is done either through a DSE or an EM signer. And once that is done, it will allow you to file the application. So if Aadhaar authentication is not done here, then he has no option, but the physical verification becomes mandatory. So what I would like to suggest everybody is that please ensure that while submitting the application in GST REG 01, the Aadhaar authentication is also done concurrently, so that you don't end up with physical verification unless it is warranted on reasonable belief by the proper officer. So that is the best suggestion which I can give you. Keep the list of documents. This I'm repeating quite often, precisely because the idea of today's session is to at least get the registration certificate seamlessly without any hitch or difficulty, and even that is more successful if this GSTN is obtained without physical verification after completion of Aadhaar authentication. So once this is done, probably that can be termed as the success of today's seminar. Right. What is the procedure to be adopted by the officer during the course of physical verification? Yes, the tax officer, he actually prepares, right? He doesn't come just like that into the premises. He has been advised or he has been instructed to do a pre-verification of all the documents that are submitted through as part of GST REG 1. So the officer will verify the registration particulars that are filed, will check the list of documents that are uploaded, and he will identify those documents which are required as part of the physical verification, list them out and keep them ready. So if the uploaded documents are not legible, again that will be sought for during the physical verification. That is why I said that please upload all the documents that are required and in a legible manner, so that the officer is satisfied when he downloads and sees it in his system. So then once the physical verification is ordered, he comes to the business location and then does this physical verification anytime between 10 o'clock to 5 o'clock. So this is the timeline that has been instructed to be followed. So he cannot come at any point of time. Based on the information that is provided in GST REG 1 about the location, he will visit this place. So that is very important. Earlier, we said that there has to be, the applicant should be available at the time of physical verification. Now that law has been relaxed, and any authorized person can be available for answering the queries raised by the officer who is doing the physical verification. He will be taking photographs, right? Photographs of the business premises along with the angle showing the extent of business place, its approach, signboards, etc. So these are all corroborative evidences to establish that there is an intent to do business and intent to do business properly. Then core fields will have to be checked. Core fields are like legal name of the business, PAN number, constitution of the business, principal place of business, additional place of business. All these are core fields which requires more diligent attention by the applicant. And he will be verifying those aspects also. And then he will submit his report within 15 days of physical verification. So this is how the physical verification is done. So I would like to make a humble a fervent request to all the applicants that in case a physical verification happens, please keep all the documents in a legible form so that the officer is satisfied and completes his physical verification formalities as quickly as possible. So the purpose of physical verification is to verify the correctness and the adequacy of the information furnished, because we had a lot of maybe like acidic experience in granting registration left and right, which ended up in fake registrations and fake invoices. So now we have shifted to the concept called trust but verify, and therefore these verification process have been made mandatory. So whenever the officer visits for physical verification, 5 documents you kindly keep it ready for his verification: the photographs of the business premises, and then the constitution of business, which probably you would have already uploaded as part of GST REG1. If that was legible, the officer will not ask that. If it is not legible, probably he might ask for a copy, so that he is satisfied about the intent of business. Then proof of the principal place of business, that you are in legal possession of this premises to do the business. Bank account related proof, and of course other authorization will also have to be done. And this is just, I thought I'll just show you what is this form GST REG 30, which the officer after completion of the physical verification, the officer will actually submit his report within 15 days. So all the information that are required, you can see this is available as part of the forms that are prescribed under the GST rules. So it is available, so you can know what probably are the areas that the officer will in fact verify, right? So the details of the premises, the area, and then he will upload the photographs. So all these information he might ask, right, to establish the genuineness of the application. So the scope of inquiry is to find out and enlist the correctness of information furnished by the taxpayer. And recently, the Delhi High Court, in fact, in the case of Micro Focus Software Solutions India Private Limited versus Union of India and others, specifically said that during the course of the physical verification at the place of business, it will be conducted in the presence of a person. The person need not necessarily be the managing director or the whole-time director or the partners. It can be in the presence of the authorized signatory also, but a presence of the person has been suggested to be mandatory, and therefore it is again advised that when the officer comes for physical verification, you will get a notice or an email about the date and time of visit of the officer. That time, if the authorized person is present, probably it will help mutually to get the difficulties cleared and not to get the apprehensions clarified. So that is the intention. So once this physical verification is done, if the officer is satisfied, he will go ahead, give a progressive report based on which GST REG 06, that is GSTN number, is issued. But if the officer has got apprehensions about the genuineness of the application, then either he will deny the request, or if it is already registered, he will recommend for cancellation of registration. So these are the 3 post activities after the physical verification is completed. We had conducted a lot of we had conducted in fact a lot of analytics, and we had done this fake registration verification process in 2023, where we found that 21,791 fake registrations were there, and which ended up in a suspected tax evasion of more than 24,000 crore that has been deducted. So, so it is always fair enough on the part of the department to tighten the screws, and therefore all these measures, proactive measures, are being taken. So the potential motive for a person not to take a fake registration is probably avail an ineligible input tax credit or pass illegitimate input tax credit, probably end up in clandestine supply or laundering ITC by circular trading. So like this, using a fake invoice mechanism. So usually these frauds involve large GSTNs, multiple jurisdictions between state and center. Dummy units are created with incorrect address and incomplete details. And no companies, fly-by-night operators are created. Companies with no asserts are actually created. Because the entry-level barrier verification was very low, there was no proper system of scrutiny, so these frauds were committed with impunity. But now the verification screws have been tightened, and therefore there is less scope for taking fake registration. So once the fake registrations are restricted, probably the menace of fake invoice also will come down. So that is the expectation. So there are certain risk parameters that we have identified as part of our BIFA, that is Business Intelligence for Fraud Analytics, where we have found that these are the risk parameters that ends up in fake registration. Multiple registration with same PAN number we used to verify. We can have common email, common mobile, common address, common authorized signatory, or promoted by a common person. Nothing wrong in that. All these are legally permitted as long as they are done with genuine intention, right? You can have a common email ID and common mobile number for more than one GST, and also absolutely the law that does not prohibit that as long as the intentions are clear. There are certain situations where after finding out that this is a fake registration, the department would have cancelled the registration. What he will do is he'll switch to a different address and then try to take a registration and continue his illegal activity with impunity. So we will also check cancelled registration as also one of the risk parameters. So if a registration is cancelled for a PAN number and he reapplies, probably there will be a pop-up in the dashboard of the officer just to check up whether it is genuine or not. It's just an alert. It does not mean that it will automatically go for physical verification. And then live registrations. If an offense is booked by our counterpart officers, like from CGST to SGST or SGST to CGST. One more risk parameter is the cancelled registrants are expected to file a final return in GST R10. And if that has not been filed and subsequently with the same PAN number he applies for registration again, probably that will be red flag. So these are the areas that we try to use for our analytics, so that fraud analytics, so that we don't give or grant fake registrations. The way forward is that biometric based Aadhaar authentication, because lot of PAN numbers and lot of Aadhaar cards were misused by the fraudsters without the knowledge of the owner of the PAN number or owner of the Aadhaar card. So a pilot project was started for biometric based Aadhaar authentication. The pilot project, in fact, was started in October 23 in the state of Gujarat. Puducherry joined the project subsequently, and then Andhra Pradesh also volunteered to do biometric based Aadhaar authentication since December 2023. So it has in fact been very, very helpful for the officers in authenticating the factual information about the data that is given in GST REG 01. Next way forward is geotagging of all entities that may also be made mandatory subsequently. That is a way forward. So now that everything is put in place, the information provided should be proper, and biometric Aadhaar based authentication is put in place. Geotagging of the principal place of business and additional places of business are done. Probably, if all these things are done seamlessly at the time of filing the registration application, and probably the physical verification itself may become infectious, may not be required. But still, if there is any hitch or if there is any hurdle in this process, then physical verification is the only option available for the department, because no, we follow the principle called trust but verify. So this verification will happen physically visiting the principal place of business and then satisfying the intent of the applicant. So once this biometric Aadhaar authentication can be done in two manners. One is either once the application is submitted, an email will be sent with two options. One is seeking for a link for OTP based Aadhaar authentication, or link to seek an appointment for the biometric Aadhaar based authentication at the designated GST Seva Kendra. So you can choose any of the options. So if you are confident of this OTP based Aadhaar authentication, then you can proceed and then complete the Aadhaar authentication like that. But if you want to seek an appointment and then do this job at the GST Seva Kendra, GST Seva Kendra is established at every field office of the GST offices. So you can visit the Seva Kendra. More so, the facilities are better in each of the commissionerates. So visit the Seva Kendra. But before visiting the Seva Kendra, you just gather the essential documents, which I have been repeatedly telling, like the jurisdictional details, the Aadhaar number, the original application documents, then the documents establishing your legal possession of the premises, probably the appointment confirmation letter, PAN card, so photographs. So all those will help you in successfully completing this biometric based Aadhaar authentication and then get your GSTN number. So this is how this is how the entire process of registration is undertaken. So just to sum up what I have been speaking so long, I would rather advise you or suggest the person who wants to take a registration to keep all the documents ready, check for himself whether the documents are legible, and not try to upload those documents within the prescribed size limits, and then not ensure that the documents are legible, because the person who is going to verify those documents should be capable of understanding and then satisfying himself that is a genuine application. Try to complete the process of Aadhaar authentication, link a bank account, and complete the process of submitting. Once these aspects are done seamlessly and comprehensively, I have no reservation in declaring that the registration certificate will be issued not later than 7 days from the date of application. So this is something which we have been very consciously trying to do. We will now shift to the different subject of maintenance of accounts. So there are two sections. There are two legislations, one under the CGST Act and another under the CGST rules. Rule 35 and then Rule 56 deals about the accounts and records that are required to be maintained in the GST. I'll just try to give you an overview of the documents that are required. So the first question probably that crops up into your mind is whether physical records are required or can I maintain it electronically. You are allowed to maintain the records electronically by the legislation itself. That is not required to maintain records in physical form, provided digital validation of such records are done through DSC. So that is the thumb rule which I would like to give before I begin my overview on this maintenance of record. So the every registered person will have to maintain these records. So that is one. 3 categories of persons have been identified for maintenance of certain records. One is all registered persons will have to maintain the prescribed records. Second is, even if you are not a registered person, but if you are an owner or an operator of a warehouse or a godown or any other place used for storage of taxable goods, then such person shall also maintain certain records, notwithstanding that he is not a registered person. And every transporter, whether registered or not, is expected to maintain certain documents. So these are the 3 branches or 3 mandates that are prescribed under the legislation for maintenance of records. In terms of Section 35, every registered person or every taxable person is expected to maintain production or manufacture records with reference to goods, inward or outward supply of goods and services, then stock of goods on hand at the principal place of business and also at the additional places of business, the input tax credit avoided, then the output tax payable and paid. So these are the backbone records which are essentially to be maintained to establish the fact that the tax liability is discharged seamlessly and in time. The other set of documents, various types of records, like these production records, the records that I have mentioned earlier are mandated by the legislation, whereas these types of records, these records can be maintained by the taxpayer themselves as per their format. There is no prescribed format that is given in the legislation. They can maintain their own format according to their business convenience and business model, but production registers should be there, purchase registers should be there, sales register should be there, and know what are the goods and services that attracted taxable supply, outward supply information with reference to that should be there. Purchases of goods for providing outward taxable supply so that the eligibility of ITC can be decided. So I think most of you will be aware of the fact that not everything that is auto-populated in GST-R2B becomes an eligible credit, right? It has to be used in the course or furtherance of business for taxable outward supply. So the eligible credit is different from what is the populated credit under GST-R2B. For that, this document will be very essential. And every manufacturer showing the details of the goods that he is manufacturing. The other types of records, output tax paid. So that is essentially what the officer will verify every time that he comes for auditing or investigation, the quantum of tax declared in GST-R3B and the quantum of tax that is paid. So a register for that will be very helpful. Then electronic cash ledger, how it was adjusted over and beyond the input tax credit that was available for him. Then probably the reverse charge tax liabilities also should be declared. So a person would have been registered for payment of taxes on all his outward supplies, but there are certain situations where he will be charged with the responsibility of paying tax under reverse charge mechanism. So that can be specifically maintained. What are the supplies that attracted reverse charge mechanism? And there are specified tax of people. There are specified class of persons, who have been mandated to maintain certain records, like no other suppliers, like the works contract supplier services. Here he has been prescribed with specific records. I'll list out what are the records that are expected to be maintained by a works contract service provider. And then banking and financial services, because of the volume of transactions that they have been provided with certain relaxations in respect of maintenance of records, like issuance of tax invoice or a combined availability of ITC. 50% of the eligible ITC can be taken, notwithstanding GST notwithstanding what is populated in GST-R2B. He can take 50% of the credit without need to reverse the input tax credit attributable to exempted goods or exempted capital goods. In terms of Rule 42 or 43, 50% of the eligible credit will help him not to maintain certain records. So that relaxation is also given. Export and import details, especially with reference to remittance of the proceeds. Then other records that are prescribed from time to time. So this flexibility for the law is also there in case the department feels that this type of document will have to be maintained by a particular taxable person, like what they have mentioned for works contractor service. So that those documents will have to be maintained. So these are the various types of documents. Bills of invoices, bill of entry, and e-invoice, like these are the assessment documents that will be helpful in establishing how a person has self-assessed this tax liability. You know that under GST, you have a self-assessment scenario in terms of Section 59. So there is no requirement for him to get his assessments validated by the tax officer, nor the tax officer actually interferes in his assessment process. It is a self-assessment process, and therefore, invoices, bill of supply, e-invoices, and also known as this credit note and debit note are all treated as assessment documents. They have this legislative recognition of being assessment documents. So these documents will have to be maintained scrupulously. And to decide the time of supply, receipt vouchers, payment vouchers, and also this advanced vouchers will be helpful, so that the time of supply with reference to services is the time at which the advance is received. These documents will help to fix the time of supply. Then delivery challans or e-way bills, as the case may be, becomes very, very important for cross verification and reconciliation, especially at the time of filing the annual return on the GSTR 9 and reconciling it with GSTR 9C. So there is always a tendency for the department to analyze and reconcile the information with reference to GSTR 3B and the e-way bills, especially with reference to goods. So unless this gap is bridged, probably it might become very difficult for a taxpayer. And to bridge this gap with proper explanation, you need to maintain these records. I was talking to you that with reference to works contract supply, there are specific documents that has been prescribed, like the name and address of the person on whose behalf this works contract is executed, and the description of description and value of the goods received for execution, description and value of the quantity of goods or services utilized for executing this works contract, name and address of the supplier. So these information are specifically for certain sectors like works contract, where they will have to maintain these documents. Right. The next question is where these documents should be maintained or where they should be located. So the law says that all documents should be located at the principal place of business. So the principal place of business should have documents with reference to its own premises, and also the documents with reference to all the additional places of business. So all these things should be there at the principal place of business. So this is mandatory. So both for principal place of business and additional place of business, it should be maintained at the principal place of business. So whenever an officer comes for auditing or investigation at the principal place of business, the documents of both the locations should be available. And at the additional places of business, the relevant documents that are applicable for this additional place of business should be kept there. So this is how the records should be maintained. Next question is, there was in fact a talk at the as part of the inaugural address also, that huge records are expected to be maintained and huge records are expected to be submitted. So preservation and production of records has also been mandated by the law. It says that the records in a normal case shall be maintained or preserved up to a period of 72 months, that is 6 years, from the date of filing the annual return. So filing the annual return is the start date. So the date on which the annual return is filed, or the date on which the annual return is deemed to have been filed in respect of taxpayers whose turnover is less than 2 crore, or the date on which the annual return is liable to be filed in case there is a failure to file the annual returns. In all such cases, the date of annual return becomes the start date, and from that date for 72 months, these records are expected to be maintained. And in case of litigation cases, maybe even more time. So it says that up to 72 months from the date of disposal or final disposal of the case. So it might exceed the normal time limit of 72 months also. And in case the records are maintained electronically, proper backup is absolutely essential. If proper backup is not there, then probably that will not help your cause. And all the electronic documents will have to be authenticated by the authorized signatory with his digital signature certification. Details of the files, details of the username, details of the password associated with these documents will have to be produced to the officer at the time of his audit or investigation. So this is the time limit that has been prescribed for preservation and production of records. For non-taxable, rather for unregistered persons, I told you that they are also expected to maintain certain records, notwithstanding that they are not registered. So two documents has been prescribed. That is ENR 1, that is the details regarding the business that has to be filed electronically. ENR 2 is the transporter who is registered more than one state with the same PAN number and apply for unique common enrollment number. This can be used for generating e-way bill also. And now the goods transported, where it is delivered, and the dispatch, movement, receipt. So all this information should be maintained properly for 72 months for verification by the officers. And this is with reference to those who are not registered with the department. So they are also expected to maintain that. So the ideology with reference to record keeping as far as GST is concerned is that the financial records that are being maintained by the taxpayer will suffice There is no statutory records that has been provided except those which I had mentioned in the first two slides. So all other private records that are maintained by the taxpayer are acceptable evidences to establish and take into cognizance for reconciliation. Electronic credit ledger is the record for availing and utilizing ITC, that is the legislative. So whatever record that you maintain will not be reconciled. It is the electronic credit ledger that will be taken up for availing and utilizing the ITC. Sales ledger suffices as record for all outward supplies of goods, services, or both. Purchase ledger suffices as record for availing input tax credit. Expenses ledger will suffice for the record of services liable to be paid under reverse charge mechanism. And now at the time of audit or inspection, the financials are to be presented to the officers. It can be maintained. This is very, very important. The records can be maintained in electronic form, but requires to be authenticated through a digital signature certification by the authorized signatory. And these documents will have to be 100% maintained at the principal place of business, including the records that are attributable to additional places of business. And all records with reference to additional place of business will have to be maintained at the respective additional places of business and also the principal place of business. So these are some of the existing ideologies with regard to maintenance of records that has been prescribed by the legislation. This is what is expected by the law. So I think now comprehensively I tried to cover the areas with reference to registration, and the person who are liable to be registered compulsorily or no mandatorily. Also spoke about the possibility of voluntary registration also. I spoke about the whether a person is required to be registered or not. And I just took you through the physical verification process, fake registrations, and then how how the department was able to tackle the fake registration and then fake input tax credit menace and the way forward that is expected to be done. Some records to be maintained as legislatively required, and how the private records are also taken into cognizance for the purpose of reconciliation by the department. And finally, emphasize the fact that all the documents that are prescribed and that are essential for taking registration, if filed along with GST REG1 and the bank account is linked and Aadhaar authentication is done, I am sure that the registration certificate will reach every taxpayer within a prescribed time of 7 days without an iota of doubt. So I once again thank DG Systems Bangalore, especially the Principal Additional Director General Bangalore, for providing this opportunity to sensitize the stakeholders, especially the MSME units, with reference to this topic of registration and then maintenance of records. And I also thank team DGTS, especially Mr. Ebenezer sir, for helping me in putting this platform and then enabling me to make this presentation. So I stop my presentation here, and I open the forum for questions. I have access to chat box. So any person who wants to raise their query can do it through the chat box, or if the facility for unmuting themselves is offered, probably I think that can also be done. So over to Ebenezer sir, please. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, sir, for your detailed presentation.
Sir, I have a query, sir.
Yes, sir. Please.
With regard to the maintenance.
Sir, just hello.
Sir.
Yes, sir.
Sir, wait for a minute, sir. Thank you, Srivarsan, for your detailed presentation. And I am sure that majority of the doubts in the minds of our audience were clear with the presentation. Now we will move on to the question and answer session. To proceed with question and answer session, along with our faculty, Sri R. Srivarsan, we have also invited Sri Kishore KM, Superintendent of Central Tax, CPC, Bengaluru CGST Zone. We thank you for your gracious presence on this occasion. Now let us look at the questions in the chat box, sir. Sir, from the chat box, we'll take the questions one by one.
Yes, sir, please.
We will answer it, sir.
First question is with reference to interest liability. I think it is outside the ambit of today's subject, so I consciously refrain from answering this question. Second is also with reference to information with GSTR 2A and 2B returns. Again, with reference to audit and reconciliation. Again, this is out of today's topic. So probably I think I will not be able to answer this question here also. And just scrolling down, PPT I have already shared with DGTS, and I think team DGTS Bangalore will be providing this information on the registered email ID. So that will not be a problem. Can we edit the name of the firm after registration? If so, how? Yes, I think this is a question that is relatable to today's session. Name of the person, legal name as well as the trade name are core fields, and therefore no, they cannot be edited after submission and generation of a registration certificate. See, there are two concepts as far as GST REG 1 is concerned. You can first save it as draft and then submit it. So if you save it as draft, you can edit it till it is submitted. But once it is submitted, it is not possible to change the name of the firm even after submission, leave alone after issuance of registration certificate. But that doesn't mean that is the end of the story for you. In case you have inadvertently entered the name, or you would like to change the name of the firm with the existing PAN number, it is a core amendment which can be a request of which can be submitted to the jurisdictional tax officer. The jurisdictional tax officer will facilitate you in effecting the core amendments as far as the registration is concerned. Some of the areas of core amendments is change in the legal name, change in the trade name, and probably change in the principal place of business. So change in the partners, change in the constitution. So these are all core amendments which can be done only with the authorization of the proper officer. All other changements like changing the mobile number, changing the email ID reference, or changing the authorized signatory, all these things, not the primary authorized signatory, but the other authorized signatories are all non-core amendments which the taxpayer himself can do. But core amendments can be done only with the authentication of the tax officer. While checking the address of a registered person, I could see that they have entered a recipient instead of additional place of business. Why is it so? I think I will not be able to answer this question because probably inadvertence. Suppose total aggregate turnover exceeds 40 lakhs on the last day of the financial year, say by 1 rupee, then whether the tax becomes payable on the entire 40 lakhs or on rupee 1. The answer is only rupee 1. So it says up to a threshold limit of 40 lakhs, there is no requirement for you to take registration. Only crossing 40 lakhs, you will have to take a registration. So in the preceding financial year, probably you will end up paying tax only for rupee 1. But the major problem is, or major facility is that from the subsequent year, you will have to take registration right away from first day of April. Whether the compounded taxpayer should keep stock register. Sir, compounded, I think you are speaking about a person who has opted for composition levy scheme. I think that is the intent of the question. Not required, basically. Composition levies, those who have opted for composition levy scheme have been, the documents that are expected to be maintained by them has been watered down. But in case of doubt, you should have substantial evidence to establish your claim. So you can maintain any type of register that establishes your genuine nature of transaction. So not necessary a stock register. You can maintain any documents. So that is the advantage of opting for composition levy scheme. While checking the address of a registered person, I could see that they have entered. I think it's coming again. Okay. What about the supply of handbooks for newly registered taxable person? Sir, I think it's a very good idea. Instead of printing the handbooks, we have in fact created a lot of flyers that are available in the CBIC website. If you go to CBIC website, look at the GST tag there. You have so much of information that it requires more than one life for you to go through all the information that's available there. Apart from that, GSTN also has come out with a lot of advisories, especially with reference to registration, payment of tax, returns, etc. So those can be gone through. GSTN website also has got a YouTube video where it explains a lot of information, how to take a registration, right from how to take a registration till how to make payment of taxes or file returns, file refunds, etc. So many YouTube videos are also available. So you can access these sites for gaining more knowledge. So I don't think there is a requirement for publishing a handbook of a sort. Everything is available in soft copy, and as I said, it takes more than one life for somebody to go through the entire material that is available on our official website. One of our suppliers is an unregistered person having considerable volume of business with us. What are the precautions that we will have to take on that vendor? Okay, sir. I think the liability to pay tax is on the supplier. So in case you are convinced that his turnover is less than 40 lakhs or 20 lakhs, it's not going to affect your business. Please as a regular client who does voluminous business with him, please try to advise him that he is liable to take a registration upon crossing the threshold limit of 40 lakhs or 20 lakhs. Or you can also apprise him of the fact that there is a concept called compulsory registration under section 24. And in case your supply is outside your state, then he will have to take a registration immediately. Are branch-wise financials required to be maintained if there are branches within the state also or outside the state? Yes, I think this is a very interesting question to be answered, basically because any business entity that has got footprints in more than one state, in multiple states, their accounting system will be consolidated for the PAN, right? So they may be issuing a balance sheet or an annual report which is consolidated. But unfortunately, as far as GST is concerned, we have a state-wise registration, and therefore, in order to reconcile and compute your tax liability and check whether you have rightly assessed your tax liabilities, you require state-wise books of accounts. And if you have got more than one registration in a state, it is always better to maintain the accounts GST and wise, because every audit or investigation is done GST and wise, and therefore you can maintain all these records GST and wise, but maybe issue an annual report or a balance sheet consolidated as required by the company's law. At branch wise financials, I think I have answered that question. 72 months preservation from the date of filing the annual return. Yes, I think I explained here about 3 dates. One date is the date of filing the annual return. From that date, 72 months, or the date on which the annual return ought to have been filed, but you have failed to file the annual return. That date will be very important. There are certain category of people who are not required to file the annual return. Like if your annual aggregate turnover is less than 2 crore rupees in the preceding financial year, you need not file. You have the option to
GST mandatory. Mandatory. Registration is mandatory. What's happening? And when it comes to our time, mandatory.
Sir, you are not audible.
Something wrong. I think they've snapped up. They have found that. So, after connecting.
It's not our issue.
You sure?
Definitely, sir.
You can take I think some
There's a
networking
connectivity
problem for him, I think.
Yeah, yes. I'm not able to get the audio. Or the video.
Yeah. You are not able to get that.
I can hear you in parts, sir. Hello.
Yeah. You can take the question from. You can take the question from. I think 4:42 p.m. One Mr. Anas. No, he has answered for that. Amit Kumar Goyal. At 4:42 p.m. he has asked 72 months preservation.
Okay, so one of the suppliers is an unregistered person having a considerable volume of business with us.
Yes, that he answered already. You come to
Yeah.
4:42 p.m. 4:42 p.m. At 4:42 p.m., one Karnataka State Rice Millers Association, they raised one query now.
Input tax credit availed at 50% for banking. Sir.
Yeah, that may not be that one, not related to today's topic. Yeah.
Mr. Samba has asked. We have waited for more than 30 days, but we did not get the registration under GST, even though proper documents are submitted to us.
Madam, actually, we need to have specific details about this application, based on which we can probably revert to you on the reason as to why there's been a delay beyond 30 days. I can probably share my email ID. If you can just note down, we can get back to you.
I'll put it in the chat, sir. It is asked by the participant. So I'm
Okay.
reading it out for you. Yes, sir.
Probably there's one circumstance, say an application marked for physical verification. They have time of say 23 days to do the physical verification and upload the report. And it comes to the central processing center where we take it up for processing on merits. So we have about a week's time from the day the field verification report is uploaded. And after 7 days, the applicant has another 7 days from the day the notice is sent to the applicant to respond to that. And another 7 days followed by the applicant's response for us to process the application. So in all, it goes to about 1.5 months. That's one possible reason why it could have got delayed for more than 30 days.
Yeah, okay. One is the Kalapan Associates. Even completion of other authentication successfully, department has insisted for physical verification.
Yeah, this is basically there are certain risk factors, risk assessment being done by the department in the background. So despite which, despite the other authentication, the case is marked for physical verification because of the risk factor.
Okay, okay then.
Yeah.
Sir,
If the authorized signatory is mentioned in the partnership deed, shall we make an additional authorization letter?
Yeah.
Mr. Nizar Muhammad.
Yes, sir. I think,
If the authorized signatory is mentioned in the partnership deed, shall we make an additional authorization letter?
yes, sir.
I think
Yeah, already he explained our Srivasan sir has explained that one. They have to give one whoever is authorized, they have to give a letter from their office. They have to give one letter. Srivasan sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That is right, actually. So authorized representative, they have to give a letter.
Can I explain this?
Yes, sir. Please go ahead. Sir, please go ahead.
So basically, there actually one declaration format is available, in which the authorized signatory declaration can be made. So we normally insist on that declaration. Notwithstanding the what you call the indication to that effect in the partnership.
Already Srivasan sir has explained that one during his session.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Prakash particularly, what about clubbing threshold limit for registration for goods and service supply? There is common registration threshold limit. That
Yes,
also
sir.
has explained.
Yes, sir. That is 20 lakhs. Annual aggregate turnover is 20
lakhs,
lakhs. Yes, sir.
20 lakhs. Yes, sir already explained that. Is it possible to take multiple GST registration under one PAN for different business in same state?
Yes, sir, that is possible. Yes, sir. Earlier, there was some restriction when we had the definition of business verticals as part of our GST law. But that concept of business verticals, in fact, has been withdrawn. Therefore, no, there is no restriction for a business entity with the same PAN number to take any number of registrations in the same state. But the only problem is any transaction between two GSTNs will become a taxable supply and transaction between distinct persons. So this aspect will have to be taken care.
Yes, sir. IST registration mandatory or not?
ISD registration is not mandatory, sir. If you want to distribute the input service credit that is available in the head office to the branch officers, probably then it is required. Otherwise, it is not required. It is not
Yes,
mandatory.
For an URP, enforcement officers demand tax for initial period without giving set of rupees 20 lakhs or 40 lakhs. I think this is not in our,
Yes, sir.
yeah, this, no. Maintenance of books of accounts in terms of work contractor.
Yes, sir. Yes, that also I have explained actually. It is a special, yes, a special category of persons who are expected to maintain, because no works contract is little bit a complex service, and also in the eyes of legislation, probably it is felt that there are a lot of difficulties in administering them, and therefore no certain key information that are relatable to taxable supplies are expected to be maintained. So it is as prescribed by the law, sir.
Yes, sir. Sir, please explain whether the GST officer can scrutiny the returns of cancellation applied for registration.
Yes, sir. Obviously, he will scrutinize that. He cannot close his eyes and blindly process the request of cancellation. So he will have to take a judicial decision, and therefore no application for cancellation of registrations will be scrutinized, and then only will be offered, because no, he may be having some arrears, or no, probably he would have wrongly assessed his past tax liabilities. This requires to be scrutinized. After that only it will be cancelled.
Yes, sir. What is the time limit for getting GST registration after application? That also you have explained.
Yes, sir. 7 working days.
7, yes, sir. Can I change the photo in GST certificate of a proprietor?
I think Mr. Kishore will be able to answer this. I don't know what is the necessity for that, but still, it is for him to decide. Probably, I think Mr. Kishore can answer this. Is it possible to change the photo?
So that would amount to amendment of the registration.
Yes.
We basically are handling applications, fresh applications for.
Yes, yes. They can amend, I think, sir.
Correct,
This can
sir.
be amended.
They have to go for amendment.
This can be
It will come to
amended.
range.
Yes, and this has to be treated as a core amendment, because no, I don't know what photo you are going to give. Is it your same photo or somebody else's photo? So it becomes a core amendment, and therefore no, it has to be by the validation of the tax officer.
Sir, when I acquire an existing proprietorship, do I have to cancel the old registration and take new registration?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Basically a PAN number of the existing proprietor would be a different one from the PAN of the person who's got the old registration. So this would amount to a new registration.
Yes, sir.
So the old one has to be cancelled after complying with all the GST obligations, and then you can apply for.
Yes, sir. And file GSTR 10 finally.
For the one which is to be cancelled. Yes.
Cancel. Exactly. Yes.
Yes.
But if it is a going concern, probably you can use the same GSTN number.
Yes, sir. Sir, you have mentioned that though a person has interstate supply of services without crossing the threshold limit need not register. Please enlighten the provision again.
Yes, sir. Initially it was like that. Like no interstate supply of goods or services is mandatory, but for services it was relaxed. I will in fact share the notification number also subsequently, because I don't have the manual right now. So for interstate supply of services, a person who has a turnover of less than 20 lakh rupees can avail the threshold concessions till he reaches 20 lakh rupees. On crossing 20 lakh rupees, he can take registration. So that compulsion is only with reference to goods, not with reference to services.
Okay, sir. Sir, if bank interest and professional income received exceed 20 lakhs, is liable for registration?
Sir, interest income is not treated as a consideration under GST. So
Yes.
interest
Yes,
income will be, yes, sir. So it is not.
Yes, sir. Sir, service provider can opt for composition registration.
Composition registration is only for predominantly goods, but there is a special scheme that has been available for service providers who can opt for composition type of scheme also. Two conditions are very important. That turnover should not have crossed 50 lakh rupees in the preceding financial year. And they don't have this advantage of 1% or 2%. They have to pay 3 plus 3%. Of course, all other conditions like non-availability of ITC and they cannot collect this tax amount from their customers will all stand as it is for goods. But the only difference is here the threshold limit is 50 lakh rupees and the rate of tax is 3 plus 3.
Sir, one RG brands manufacturing company. Sir, audit was completed up to 2022. Is it necessary we have to maintain record for 6 years?
Yes, sir. It is a legislative mandate. You will have to maintain it for 72 months from the date of annual return. Whether
Yes,
audit
sir.
is completed or investigation is completed, it doesn't matter. It says that it has to be preserved for a period of 72 months.
Sir, how to add additional place of business for existing registered person?
I think Mr. Kishore can answer this.
This again is
Yeah,
a
sir.
amendment to the existing.
Amendment, it will come to range, sir. Okay.
It goes to the
If they
range,
have,
Yes.
sir, if they can raise up this query in the email to our mail ID, we will get
Okay, sir.
we'll get the reply from the range and we'll pass on to.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I think.
Our
Yes.
mail ID we have given, so in the end, I will give the mail ID, sir. Let them give the question in the mail.
Okay, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sir, one Amit Kumar Goyal, turnover on the GST login is updated till October 2023. By when
Okay,
it will
sir.
get updated up to, this is some system related.
Yes, sir. I think it's not registration related, but
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
see, all these updation happens in a batching process, sir. So that is why it is getting delayed.
Sir, in Ashwini, 4:55 p.m.
Okay, sir.
In new registration name as per Aadhaar is mentioned. Then also I have received name of promoter mismatch during PAN validation. Please
Okay.
guide.
Yes, sir. Here, the problem that happens is, first of all, the name in the Aadhaar and name in the PAN number should actually match, first of all. So that effort should actually be taken. So there are a lot of difficulties faced by the taxpayers where the PAN name and the Aadhaar name, there is a mismatch, as a result of which GSTN is not able to validate their information. So kindly, my humble advice to all the applicants is kindly match your name with Aadhaar and PAN number and then subsequently apply for GSTN number, because we have this interportal connectivity. Like when you attempt to apply for registration, the PAN is verified from the income tax database. The Aadhaar is verified from the central information depository, and both are actually interlinked. This CIDR and the PAN are interlinked, and therefore all three dots are required to be connected. Therefore, there should be consistency in the information that is provided to both organizations. Once that is matched, this will not be a difficulty.
Yes, sir. Sir, what is the next step if Aadhaar authentication is failed while done through online?
Yes, sir. Probably the next step, easy step for you is to approach the GST Seva Kendra with all the documents where biometric based Aadhaar authentication will be done.
Sir, is flyer on accounts to be made?
Chat.
I think question is flyer on accounts to be made.
Chat.
Sir, one Mr. Balakrishnan
Okay, sir.
noticed sometime back one GST.
Problem is there is some time lag, sir. Actually, now only I'm getting the questions with reference to 455.
So on the question raised at 458 Balakrishnan,
Okay. Can you? I'm not.
I think it's a specific case where we need to check and get back. Sir.
Okay.
So we can probably take it on the mail and probably revert to them.
Yes. Sir, Mr. S. Chakra Ramana has raised his hand. Any query from him?
Sir, with regard to standalone trial balance, some of
Sir.
the companies could not be able to provide that, sir, because they have the centralized accounts. Just because of that, they are unable to produce it at the time of audit, sir.
Okay, sir.
Then what is the alternative remedy?
How you would have filed your GSTR 9, sir?
They are consolidating and detailed trial balance, they could not be able to do it, sir, because they have the stand-up centers. For them, what they will do is they will permission to the extent of supply of goods and inward and outward supplies and all, they will take care, inventory management and all, they will take care. And debtors, they will, the relation part and all, they will get credit to their head office account only, sir.
Okay. Sir.
Because of that reason, even though they have filed the 9 and 9C, department is insisting for the standalone trial balance. Without that, they are not at all commencing the audit also. What they are telling is, you submit the standalone trial balance, then we will get the consent from our superior officers to commence the audit and all. They are telling it.
We can make an amendment and have it.
Correct, sir. The problem here is that this GSTN is issued location wise or state wise. So the liability also is with reference to GSTN number. So in order to reconcile that, probably we require it cost center wise or GSTN wise. So probably I think as a professional, you can try to work out what is attributable to this unit and try to give a self-certified or self-authenticated information instead of a trial balance or something. And if the officer is satisfied, he can proceed with conducting of audit. Otherwise, it requires a law to be amended.
Yeah, as far as I am concerned, I have prepared the trial balance. I have arrived it from the annual return, sir.
Yes, sir, exactly.
They are asking now, they are insisting for the certified account. Certified trial balance, they are insisting. Some of the officers in some of the states. In some other states, they are not insisting, and that audit has been already completed. Same company part. They are telling that in other state they are not asking, whereas in some state they are insisting. What is the alternative remedy they are asking?
Sir, certified balance sheet means what do you mean by that, sir? Is it to be certified by a chartered accountant or a cost accountant?
A trial balance they are insisting for the certified, sir.
Okay, sir. Okay, I think this is a conflict of interest that is that's happening because the officer requires a reconciliation, which probably is not available with the taxpayer, but the records has to be maintained GSTN wise. That is what the legislation actually expects, sir. Therefore, that has to be resolved. Probably if it is a practical difficulty, it can be taken up with the policy level. Otherwise, what the law expects is GSTN wise information only. I think I am right on this.
Yes. They have to do some efforts on that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Because ultimately it is in the interest of both the tax officer as well as the taxpayer. They have to meet each other and then come to a conclusion for which convincing and corroborative evidences are required. And the officer also has the mandate of trust but verify. He has to verify certain documents and satisfy himself. Therefore, he is insisting on this. But if it can be matched with any other documents, it is up to his discretion to accept it, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, please share the PPT of it, sir. We can generate, we can share it to the association members also.
Sir,
We
will share the PPT, sir. We'll share the PPT. Suppose in case so many of them they have requested for PPT. If anyone need PPT, please give a request to our mail ID dgts-bangalore@gov.in. I have given in the chat box also our mail ID. Give a request to our mail. We will send you the PPT. Sir, any
That's it.
other questions, sir?
Thank you, sir.
So I think no further questions, I think, sir. No questions.
sir.
Sir.
Yes, there is.
I hope all your doubts have been cleared. Now, before we end this program, it is time to give vote of thanks. I request Sri Prakash Iyer, Managing Committee Member, CCC and I, Kerala, to kindly propose the vote of thanks. Sir, over to you, sir.
Hi, good evening. It was a. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You are audible,
Yeah.
sir.
Actually, it is heavily raining at Cochin. So I think the entire south is enjoying the climate. Even Chennai also is better now. So actually, my job is to thank DGTS for organizing the webinar. We have commenced on 19th of December, and this is the 5th seminar. During these 5 seminars, one was in Malayalam, and I think one we had done it in Karnataka in Kannada language. So actually, really interesting, and many of us could interact each other and to know each other, and the fear is out now. Because normally when we meet an officer and implementing authority like customs or GST or any central excise, the companies or the organization, the people used to be having a fear inside, to meet, how to brief out our issues. But it's all sorted out. And when our Srivatsan sir spoke like a tutor, since he is an academy, he is in a national academy, so he will be like a tutor. So he taught us very well. Even he has highlighted, the how we are supposed to be pure, genuine citizen of India. Actually, he mentioned about the fundamental requirement. I consider it as a fundamental right of a citizen, a businessman, to register in GST for portal and to pay the GST on time without any mistakes. Whereas he has highlighted about 21,000 odd fraudulent registrations, and more than 24,000 crores has been lost by government of India. It is our money. We are losing the revenue. So actually, we have to consider this as our duty, a responsibility, and moreover, we are supposed to attend such webinars, because with a hectic planning schedules, DGTS is organizing such webinars, and our patronage must be there. So as Cochin Chamber of Commerce and Industry, we do that. We contact we inform all our members. We call them over phone. More than 350 members are there. 50 member companies. So we call them, we inform through phones and even through mails, through WhatsApp, and ask them to make a point to attend this webinar to clarify, to get it cleared, their issues, whatever it is. So that will benefit the industry, the organization, the companies, the people also. So thank you very much for that. So to my duty, let me commence my duty by thanking Mr. Ebenezer sir, who has been contacting me and organizing this webinar, contacting all of us and organizing. I thank him for this wonderful organizing this program. And then Mr. R. Manohar, we used to see him for the 5th time today. I met him through the webinar, and he used to spend his time welcoming us, welcoming the participants, and thank him for that. And Mr. Rubam Kapoor and Mr. Manohar Arora, in their absentia, I thank them on behalf of Cochin Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Mr. A. Gopalakrishnan has briefed out the issues in the initial message itself. He has highlighted what are the issues, what are the concerns we have. He has spoken very well. Thank you very much, sir. Mr. Chakra Ramana, with the concluding questions from his side, he has highlighted and he spoke to us. So I thank AIFTP and Southern Zone and his team and everybody on behalf of Cochin Chamber of Commerce and Industry and on behalf of DGTS. I thank Mrs. CBV, the State Women Wing President. Today we can see more than 3 women here, more than 4 women attending this webinar. So thank all of them for attending this. Ms. C.A. Sujata Madam, Thank you very much for joining and enlightening us with your thoughts. And then we have, of course, Mr. R. Sivalsan sir. I spoke to him, spoke about him. He has briefed out like a kid. We were listening to you. Actually, I am not part of a finance team. Okay, I am getting a shipping company into marketing and other activities. But actually, I learned a lot. Within 1 month, you are giving the registration. What are the procedures to be followed? Like, very patiently you are teaching us. You are enlightening us. You are highlighting us. So thank you very much, sir, for the interaction. And Mr. Kishore, who has answered to the queries when Mr. Srivasan sir was out of coverage, out of network. So thank you all for organizing. Finally, the participants, that took a long time. Like, sharp 3 o'clock, they joined us. They listened us. There were queries. More than 40-45 queries were answered by the panelists. So thank you very much. Thank you all of you. And let us meet again during another webinar. Maybe within a month's time we'll be having that. I believe Ebenezer sir is trying to find another what is that the point which has to be highlighted. Another webinar which will be organized, I believe. And thank you all, one and all, for the wonderful meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
With the permission of the chair, I declare the session is closed. Thank you, one and all, for your kind presence.
Thank you, sir. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.